Minister, this question arises from the recent storms that have devastated the country at the early part of this year and have affected inshore fishermen and fishermen very badly, where for at least 3 months they were unable to go to sea. And it relates to the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund and the provision to be able to, that can be included in the operational programme to allow for the state to compensate those fishermen with the assistance of European funding, and just what the Minister's intentions are in relation.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Number 5.
The EU regulations establishing the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund was published on the 20th of May 2014. Following months of intense lobbying and negotiations, I announced on the 12th of June 2014 that I had secured 148 million from the new fund for the period 2014 to 2020 for the development of the Irish seafood industry and the coastal communities that depend on it. This funding is more than double the amount that was available to Ireland during the last common fisheries policies and will ensure a strong seafood industry in Ireland that can grow and expand and meet its potential up to 2020. Ireland's EMFF allocation is to be provided through 5 discrete funding envelopes, namely 71 million for investment in the seafood industry, 32 million for data collection, 37 million for control and enforcement, 5 million for implementation of the integrated marine policy, and 1.3 million for storage aid. I will be discussing with the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform in the near future exchequer matching funding, having regard to the general budgetary situation for the coming years. The EMFF fund will provide support for our fishing fleet to meet the challenges of the new discards ban. It will support the development of the seafood processing sector, a sustainable aquacultural industry, and the communities that depend on a vibrant seafood industry. My department has been working since 2013 on developing a new operational programme, setting out arrangements for spending Ireland's allocation under the fund, and has engaged with stakeholders on a number of occasions to date. Further public consultation and strategic environmental assessments will take place over the summer of 2014. The new operational programme must be submitted to the European Commission for adoption before the end of 2014.
Thank you, Minister. The rest of the reply will appear in the official report. Deputy Pringle.
Minister, with all due respect to you, that's a nice overview of the press release from the department last week on the conclusion of the negotiations. It actually didn't address any of the specifics in the question. The Joint Oireachtas Committee has made submissions written to the Minister asking that this would be included in the operational programme. And what I'm trying to get here today from you is to whether this will actually, is there going to be any consideration of actually supporting fishermen in this way through the operational programme of the Fisheries Fund. And it's interesting also to note that of the great 147 million that's mentioned there, something in the region of about 72 million is going to go to data collection and enforcement. So there's actually only 70 million that might, well, only 70 million that might actually go towards the investment and growth in the seafood sector and the seafood industry. So the specific question, Minister, is will the Minister include in the operational programme support for fishermen who are affected by the storms that have plagued this country and that may come in the future?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Well, I will do further discussions in relation to that, but to remind you that 8 million was spent already, the government spent in relation to storm damage to piers and harbours right across the country. There was 8 million spent on that. Obviously in a very tight budgetary situation which the country finds itself, to find money for what you're looking for, something as specific as that, I can't answer you today, but I certainly will be able to come back to you in relation to that.
Thank you. Deputy Pringle.
Yeah, if I can, let's go that. Minister, we found money last year when the farmers were in crisis in terms of the fodder crisis, and the money was no object in terms of dealing with that. It was very interesting when the committee discussed the crisis that fishermen had gone through because of the recent storms. The committee room was empty. Last year, when we discussed the farming crisis, you couldn't get into the room for the amount of media that were there, the amount of farming organisations and the amount of deputies that were there that wanted to be seen to be supporting the farmers. And it's vitally important that the 8 million that went to fix piers and harbours around the country, that won't benefit the livelihoods of any of the fishermen that have been affected by these storms, and that will be affected by storms in the future as well. And I'm sad to say that I don't hold out much hope for the Minister including any provisions in the operational programme to support them either. And the point is, you talk about us being in a financially constrained situation. You can actually get European money for this. You can get European money to support these fishermen in this case. Yes, you'll have to put up matching funding, but it'll be a hell of a lot less than if you did it on your own.
Come out. Minister, final reply.
Well, I'm sure if there's European funding available with the officials in the department, that will be sought and looked after, and I can assure you. Well, I'll assure you, in relation to, you make the case that there was money made available for farmers last year. Animals were in a very, very serious state right across the country. In particular areas, they couldn't get hay to feed them. They were actually starving. And what happened was, they were facilitated by bringing hay and fodder from England and parts of France, and logistically the movement around the country. That was facilitated, and it did done extraordinarily well, and I think that was a very good success story. And why wouldn't people be there to welcome that? And that's why there was huge concern earlier, April and May last year, in relation to animals being starved, not enough of feed for them, and that was the reason for that. In relation to this particular issue, all I could say is I will talk to the officials to seize that funding from Brussels that we can get into, and if there's any other way we can help them, we certainly will.